The Silent Prairie. Ethan Cole was a man of few words, a rancher whose only companions were his horses and the endless Texas wind. For years, he'd worked his land alone, ever since the fever took his parents and left him with nothing but the Cole ranch and a quiet heart. But the nights were long and cold. The empty chair across his dinner table reminded him that silence could be a cruel thing. That's why, one spring morning, he sent a letter to a mail-order bride agency in Kansas. He didn't ask for beauty, just a kind heart and someone who could bear the loneliness of the plains. Weeks later, a telegram arrived: "Your bride will arrive by the 15th. Ethan shaved, cleaned the cabin, and even bought a ribbon for her hair. He stood by the dusty trail that day, heart pounding like a young man's. When the wagon finally creaked into sight, Ethan straightened his hat. But instead of the young woman he expected, a weary widow stepped down, followed by 5 small children clutching her skirts. The widow and her burden. "Mr. Cole?" she asked softly. "I'm Clara Dawson. I'm afraid there's been a mistake." Ethan just stared. The letter said Miss Lillian Hart, not Mrs. Clara Dawson. But the look in her eyes, tired, proud, and desperate, made him swallow his anger. She explained that her intended groom had died suddenly 2 weeks ago, but her passage was already paid. The agency told her Ethan might still take her in, at least until she found work. 5 children peered up at him, 2 boys, 3 girls, the youngest no older than 4. Ethan's heart warred with reason. He was no man for company, let alone a family of 6. But as a rancher, he knew one rule: you never turn away the lost. "Ma'am," he said finally, "you and your little ones can stay. Just till you figure things out." Clara nodded, tears brimming. She hadn't expected kindness from a stranger, especially not a man like. The ranch comes alive. Days turned into weeks. The Dawson children brought laughter back to the Cole ranch, something Ethan hadn't heard in years. Tommy, the eldest boy, helped mend fences. Little Rose followed Ethan everywhere, asking endless questions about cows and stars. Clara worked tirelessly, cooking, mending, and planting flowers outside the cabin. Ethan noticed the small touches she added: curtains on the windows, the smell of pie cooling on the sill. The loneliness began to fade. One evening, Clara joined him on the porch as the sun sank into gold. "You never said much about why you wanted a wife," she said gently. Ethan gave a small smile. "Didn't want a wife for talkin'. Just didn't want to die alone." Clara looked at him quietly. "No one deserves to." Storms of the heart. Summer brought fierce storms, and one night, lightning struck the barn. Ethan and Tommy rushed to save the horses, while Clara gathered the children in the cabin. When the storm passed, Ethan found her kneeling by the doorway, holding a crying child, her hair soaked and eyes shining with fear. He realized then how much she'd come to mean to him, not just her warmth, but the way she made the house feel like home again. But when he tried to tell her, Clara stopped him. "Ethan, I can't ask you to take us on. You didn't sign up for this. You wanted a wife, not a widow with 5 mouths to feed." He looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe I didn't know what I needed till now." Storms of the heart. Summer brought fierce storms, and one night, lightning struck the barn. Ethan and Tommy rushed to save the horses, while Clara gathered the children in the cabin. When the storm passed, Ethan found her kneeling by the doorway, holding a crying child, her hair soaked and eyes shining with fear. He realized then how much she'd come to mean to him, not just her warmth, but the way she made the house feel like home again. But when he tried to tell her, Clara stopped him. "Ethan, I can't ask you to take us on. You didn't sign up for this. You wanted a wife, not a widow with 5 mouths to feed." He looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe I didn't know what I needed till now." Blood and faith. They found shelter in an abandoned chapel miles away. Cole tended to Clara's bruised hands, whispering, "You ain't going back there. Not ever." But the brothers were hunting them, and every small town knew the Mayfield's wrath. When Cole went for supplies, Clara overheard travelers saying the Mayfields had put a bounty on his head. That night, she begged him to leave her. "If they catch you because of me." He took her face in his hands. "Darlin', if I die for you, it'll still be worth it." The final showdown. At dawn, the brothers found them. The old chapel echoed with gunfire. Cole fought like a man possessed, 1 against 2, protecting the woman who had stolen his heart. Luke fell first, shot through the shoulder. Jed charged with a knife, roaring, "She's ours." Cole's voice thundered back, "She's mine now." A single shot ended it. Jed dropped, and silence filled the air except for Clara's sobs. Cole staggered, wounded, but alive. He smiled weakly. "Told you I'd come for you. She will be my bride." Weeks later, in a quiet town by the Rio Grande, a small wedding took place. Clara walked down the aisle, not in silk but in simple white cotton. Cole stood waiting, hat in hand, tears glinting in his eyes. When the preacher asked, "Do you take this woman?" Cole looked straight at her and said softly, "She will be my bride." And as they rode away into the setting sun, Clara glanced back once at the horizon where the convent stood. Then she smiled, free at last, her prayer answered by a cowboy's promise.